All right, guys, it's 7 o'clock. Let's get started. All right. Well, welcome to the February edition of the McKinney Amateur Radio Club. I was about to say Simplex Net, but that's not right. It's a habit. Uh, this is full duplex. Yeah, you're right about that. All right. Okay, please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ding. That is not the flag. Ah, there we go. Hey. All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, do we have any new licensees here tonight? Got one new licensee? New member, all right. All right. Okay, any new call sign holders? Everybody's got the same call sign? Kilo Romeo 8 X-ray. That has a nice ring to it. All right, any license upgrades? Great, everybody's an extra. Awesome. Okay, so speaking of new members, we have 5 new members that are coming into our family tonight that we need to vote. We have Randy Howell. Randy, are you here tonight? No? Okay, David Strickland. I know David. David, you're here. Bryce Kirschner, are you here? Bryce is here. Awesome. All right. I know Stan is not here. He has another good excuse. He's leading a Bible study. So, and Bobby Crawford. Bobby, are you here tonight? Okay. So we'd like to get a motion to approve these new members into our club. Okay, Roy. Need a second? All right, see Larry back here. Okay, any discussion? All right, all in favor? Any opposed? I didn't think so. Okay, so I see a lot of CW keys up here, or Morse keys. That's pretty cool. Looking forward to that.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This evening, we have with us Mr. Evan Roberts. He has quite a storied history, and he's going to share some of that with us this evening. And without further ado, I'm going to start off, and we'll start by asking a couple of questions. I guess initially you can tell us who you are, but the first question that I had as a topic would be your 17-year-old airplane story.
Oh, Lord. When I was a kid, I wanted to fly. And my dad was an automobile mechanic, and my mother was a school teacher, neither of which had anything at all to do with aviation. But this would have been in the late 40s, or late middle 40s, when I was a kid. And so I went to the airport, a little grass airport at Gatesville, Texas, and told them I wanted to learn how to fly. And they said, "You got any money?" And I said, "No, sir, but I'll mow grass." So I got a job at the airport keeping the grass runway mowed and driving their tractor. I didn't have a tractor either. And sure as the world, I ended up getting a private license at 17 years old. Bought my first airplane with my dad's assistance for $500, and I realize that seems completely crazy, but it was a Ronca 02, I think they called them back in those days. And it had a 65 horse engine. It was fabric covered, 2-place tandem seats, and it would fly. And it was the rattiest one of the ones being sold. And the the auctioneer said, "Where's the kid with the $500? And I said, "Here, sir." And he said, "Sold." I got in the airplane and flew it back 35 miles back to Gatesville, Texas, and landed on the golf course, which was I had cleared beforehand if I should have been lucky enough to get an airplane. And I took a lot of the kids in my high school graduating class for their first airplane ride. I took my dad for his first airplane ride when I was 17 years old. I flew almost continuously for the next 50 years. The last airplane I owned was a Beech A-36, which is a very, very nice six-place airplane. And I sold it when I was 75 years old. Didn't make sense to keep it anymore. I wasn't going to use it anyway. I was 75 and I sold the airplane. I'm now 93 and I sold my pickup truck for $1 and got out. I don't have a car. I don't have a license anymore of any kind. So there we go. My interest here tonight is to clear 5 keys off my inventory, and I intend to send some code. Whoever can correctly identify the code I send gets to make a choice of any of the keys that are on the green velvet cloth. Your choice, one time, no repeats. So I'm going to start with a very, very simple send. Who can identify what I just sent?
I think I saw Kiri's hand first.
One more time. Has it?
Charlie Quebec.
Yeah, CQ is correct. Who does he?
Kiri.
Come get your key. I figure start with CQ. Anybody's going to get it. One.
These two are bugs. Those two are the same. They both have a straight key and an iron. And
All right.
that's an iron. All right. CTL 8 from Brown Brothers.
And the
Mac.
man chose a Brown Brothers key, which is a very, very good choice. All right, let's try another one. I'm going to send it again. That's a kind of out in the left field.
Raise a hand and let me know who's. Raise a hand. Let me see who's responding. Who's it? Okay. The gentleman in the red. QRZ.
QRZ is correct. Come get your key. That's a hard one. That's a difficult one. Hey, take another Brown brother. I would too. I would too. All right. Let's see if we can't. What?
Wait a little bit. We'll go through a few more items and then we'll do it again.
I'm going to send another cue signal.
Okay.
QSO.
Okay. QSO. Yeah.
QSO is correct. Come get your key.
Vibraplex Bug.
Okay, two more to go.
Okay. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I'm tempted to send an easy one, but I think I'll send a hard one.
Raise a hand and tell me which guy. QRZ?
QRZ is correct. Boy, they're getting all of them.
You got a bug?
Yeah.
And a Vibraplex iambic,
Iambic
paddles.
I just bought iambic, first time in 50 years I'm doing CW, so there we go.
All right.
That's a good choice.
Oh, yeah.
A good choice. And the last one, I'm trying to think of something. You got a good one? QTH? All right.
Your microphone picked it up.
Okay, I won't send that one. I'll send something from the list.
Ah, there you go.
Again. QRN. QRN.
Hands? Larry? QRM?
QRN is correct. Come and get your key.
Quebec Romeo Mike.
What?
Quebec Romeo Mike or Quebec Romeo November? Mike?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Yeah, that's Quebec Romeo November.
Okay, you come get your key. Now, I would like,
Yeah.
that's it, that's the last one. That goes with it, and it got lost in the shuffle somehow. I'd like to
We believe
know
so.
how many aviation-related people, in other words, pilots, co-pilots. There's one, that's two. How many of you have ever flown on the McKinney Airport and have used the lighting system, the approach, the sequence flashing systems,
Hang on.
the instrument landing systems? How many of you have ever used ILS, sequence flashing, lighting at the McKinney Airport? Well, folks, I'm the designer. I designed the instrument system. I installed the instrument system, and it's 30 years ago, and it is still out there, and it still works every day. So I'm proud of the McKinney Airport. One of the interesting things is I read in the newspaper that the McKinney Airport was going to extend the runway. When I was putting the localizer and the glide slope in, there's not much I could do with the glide slope because the approach lighting system sets the key for where the glide slope facility has to be. There's the glide slope is pretty well tied down, but the localizer can be moved around. It can't be moved laterally, left, right, but it can be moved longitudinally. I realized that there was 1,000 feet of soil that the airport had not used, nor had they had any plans for. So I moved those 8 localizer antennas that were on this screen a few minutes ago. I moved that antenna and transmitter system south 1,000 feet from where I had originally planned on putting it to give the city 1,000 feet of free soil to extend the runway on the south. The runway extension, should they do it on the north, is an expensive proposition because there's quite a grade change on the north end of that runway, and I had to use some pretty high towers to put the sequence flashing lights 1,000 feet from the north end of the runway out. At any rate, I was unable to help them on the north end, but I gave them 1,000 feet on the south end in my original design. That's a little bit of information on your ILS system and your sequence flashing system at the McKinney Airport.
When you were telling me about your initial airplane purchase, one of the things you mentioned was that shortly after you got it, you buzzed your girlfriend's house.
Oh, yeah. God, I'm sorry that story got out. When I was a senior in high school, and I had this little toy airplane, and I decided that she wasn't seeing me. I needed to be flesh and blood to her. I needed to be someone, and she never saw me. Her father was a dairy farmer, lived about 20 miles out of Gatesville, Texas, and he was a successful dairy farmer. So I knew that she rode the school bus that 20 miles. So I cut my last class, went to the airport on my bicycle, got in my airplane, flew out to the high school, and I sat up there at about 1,000 or 1,500 feet. I knew Miss Butch was hers, so I followed the bus out to the dairy farm. And it was at a four-way intersection, two county roads, and they had 1/4 of it. And I had it figured out. I'd get out here and I'd go down about 400 or 500 feet and get that airplane really going. Now, this is a 65-horse Continental engine, and at about 90 or 100 miles an hour was wide open on it. And I buzzed across when the school bus stopped, and she was getting off, and buzzed across the top of, I was 100 feet or 150 feet above the top of the school bus, pulled it up into a hard left turn, and leaned over so I could see how impressed she was with my flying, in time to see 3 cows run through the fence. Not a happy. I was planning on doing it again, and when the 3 cows ran through the fence, I decided, whoops, I better get out of here. So I went back and parked and landed. When I taxied my airplane up to a parking place, the county sheriff's car was parked there. And he said, son, I've seen you pull all kinds of stunts. I've seen your daddy's old Kaiser going up and down the road in a 30-mile-an-hour zone at 60. I never bothered you kids, but this man is angry. He said, don't ever talk to his daughter again. Don't even come close to his farm. Stay away, or he's going to have me put you in jail. And I believed the man, and I never talked to the daughter again, and I didn't get put in jail.
Okay, we're gonna shift topics just a little bit, and I know you were a U.S. Marine and you were a radio operator. Actually, you were in the Navy, correct?
Marine Corps.
Marine Corps.
Well, I'll tell that.
Right, and you were a radio operator on a couple of Navy
there's
vessels.
Another story. When I was getting out of high school, I knew my family couldn't afford to send me to college, By the way, they did, but they didn't have to pay for it later on. At any rate, by the way, I had brain damage. I fell and had brain damage about 3 months ago, and sometimes when my memory fails me. But
You were talking about your parents couldn't send you to college, and I know you joined the Civil
okay.
Aviation Association.
Uh, I worked for an engineering firm that was based in Fort Worth, Dallas, as a draftsman, and because I hadn't got I finally got the degree, but it took a while. But at any rate, part of the project was to build an airport in Russia. Now, this seems kind of strange to come to the United States to build an airport in Russia. Marathon Oil and the Russian government had a joint operation to explore the Ural Mountains in Russia for oil and gas. Marathon would not do the work for the government of Russia if they could not fly from a freighter. Now, we're not talking about passengers, we're talking about freighters, from Houston to Anchorage, fuel, fly to Russia, unload the equipment and the tools and the people, fly back to Anchorage, fuel, and fly to Houston. But there was no airport in the Ural Mountains that was suitable at that time. So the Russians gave us about, I don't remember, 1,000, 1,500 acres of land and cleared the spruce trees off from it and said, build an airport. They'll pay the bill. The Russians paid the bill for it. Marathon was the company I was contracted to. Well, not just me. There were 5 or 6 engineers doing civil and mechanical and concrete and pavement, Portland cement, and other kinds of paved surfaces. I was the electrical, my degree is double E. I was the electrical engineer, and I put the lighting system and the approach systems in Russia. And it worked, and as far as I know, the airport's still there. Interesting, very interesting. I also did one Portland cement, or Portland cement in South Korea. I did Doha Qatar. I did 2 or 3 in other Asian countries, including Mongolia. And I worked all those years as a double E. And it paid the bills. My wife was fine until she died. And then I remarried, and the woman I remarried is a wonderful woman, and she's got cancer and is in Anderson Hospital in Houston right now getting her cancer cut out. That's about it. Oh,
You can stay seated. You can stay
the
seated,
double
Evan.
E is
Oh.
Oklahoma State, not Oklahoma. And I got a master's. This is interesting. When I was getting out of high school, I was able to get my tuition paid by my mom and dad for the first semester of the freshman year, because I knew I wanted to be an engineer, and I have to go to college, and they paid for the freshman my tuition. And down in the basement, they had a sign about yay big, and it said Civil Aeronautics Administration, which most of you know, that was the forerunner to the FAA, is looking for engineering students for co-op program. Well, I read that and I said, that's for me. So I went down, took the exams and the interviews, and was selected for the co-op program that the Civil Aeronautics Administration at that time was sponsoring at Oklahoma State. And I ended up getting accepted, went through school 4 years. Oh, by the way, the kicker is if a spring and fall semester, 2 semesters was considered a year of education. And for every year, for 2 semesters, or 2 subjects, in other words, a spring and a fall, you had to guarantee or reimburse the cost of it for 3 years. So every time I finished a year of college, I was obligated to work for the government. Now I got paid, it wasn't free. I mean, I got paid for a year, but I worked for them I went to school 4 years and 2 more years to get a master, which is 7. The way they figured it was 7 years. 3 times 7 is 21. So I had to work 21 years for the government or else reimburse them for my education, which there was no way in the world I was going to be able to do that. So I worked for them 21 years. I stayed 25 years and took a full retirement, and my wife and I get a nice check every month.
So, when did you first get your radio license? You can stay seated. You can stay seated.
I don't mind standing up. In fact, I'd rather.
Okay.
The reason I stand up is because I can see people's faces.
Oh,
and
gotcha. Okay.
I get a lot of feedback from that face right over there, particularly. What was the question?
When were you originally licensed? I don't think your
Oh,
first radio license was a ham license, was it? You were
My
in the
first license was not a ham radio license. It was a little, like a taxi cab driver, what I had to have to fly an airplane, to use the airplane. It's just a Class C, I think they call that.
Okay.
But somebody said to me, well, I was in Japan with the Marine Corps, and the captain came in. I was working a radio as a Morse code operator, by the way, as a professional Morse code operator in the Marine Corps. And the captain came in one day and he said, I want a ham radio station on this base so my guys can get messages, hear their families, their girlfriends, their mama, daddy. And I said, sir, as far as I know, you have to have a ham license. And I don't think anybody on the base has got one that I know of. He says, don't give me that BS. Just make it happen. This is the Marine Corps for you. Well, I studied, and the first sergeant, and I was a corporal. I had stripes. I mean, I had 2 stripes. I was high class, And he and I studied, and both of us got Class C licenses. Now, I know all of you have heard of mail order license. Have you ever heard of an FCC Class C? That's when you're outside of the continental limits of the United States. So we wrote them letters, and they sent each of us a Class C exam, and we had to appoint somebody to monitor the exams, and I don't know who we found now, but we both got our FCC license. My first call sign was not W5IQS, it was a KA something, and I don't even remember what it was now, but I applied to the Japanese Radio Regulatory Bureau, and they issued me a Japanese call based on my FCC call, or base license. And anyway, that's how I got to be a ham. and I stayed with it all these years. And up until 4 or 5 years ago when I became too deaf, by the way, this is a cochlear implant. They had to drill a hole in my head and put some machinery in there so I could hear it all. Otherwise, I was totally deaf. And now I can hear 60, 70% of what you have to say and guess at the rest of it.
That first call sign was Kilo Alpha 2 Echo Alpha, which I grabbed off of your QRZ.
Was
You-
what?
Kilo Alpha 2 Echo Alpha.
Yeah.
You have that in your biography on your QRZ webpage.
Do I?
Yes. Had to do some research first. Once you had that ham license and you were assisting those Marines in communicating with their families, I understand there was a very special event that took place that you got to help with. A wedding?
The which one?
A wedding?
Say it
A
again.
wedding. The wedding over the air?
Oh, yeah.
Can you tell us more about that?
Say the word.
Wedding, marriage.
Oh,
Marriage.
oh, yeah. Well, I'm not sure exactly where you're going with this
You-
because I wore a ring.
You did a wedding on the air?
The wedding. Yes. I'm stationed in Japan, South Camp Fuji on the south slopes of the Mount Fujioka. And a young corporal from the motor pool came in the radio's room and he said, "Oh, I'm serious. I got troubles. I don't know what to do." And I said, "Go see the captain." So he did. He went and saw my company commander, and the company commander said, "Do something for this man." So I said, "What's the problem?" He said his girlfriend in Atlanta is pregnant, and she's written him a letter and wants to get married. Well, there's only, 5,000 miles or something from South Camp Fuji, Japan to Atlanta. So I had a good friend in Los Angeles who was handling all my American traffic. And the first time I got it, and this was all CW, but I finally got a hold of him on phone. I had 5,000 watts of military station. So that's not for publication, but it was true. Had lots of power and a good antenna system. And asked him if he knew anybody. And he says, "Well, as a matter of interest, I know a judge in Atlanta that he might be, and he can marry, a county judge can marry a couple." And so a few days later, he sent me a message, or we talked, I guess. He was in California. And he said that the judge will marry them on the air if he can hear both sides of the conversation. In other words, if he can hear the young man say, "I do," and so forth. And so we tried it out, and sure enough, a local ham there in Atlanta brought a radio in and set it up and had an antenna that was adequate. And the young man had his brother, a member of his family, and the young girl to come to the judge's chambers. They had ham radio set up in the chambers. I had the young corporal that was so upset, had him in the radio in the room. And over time, and it took a couple of tries, but the judge was willing to put up with it. And he finally said, "I pronounce you man and wife." And that was it. It was a legal marriage, even though it was clumsy.
And that's really pretty much most what we have for presentation this evening. Does anybody have any questions? His current call sign is Whiskey 5 India Lima Sierra? Yeah, India Quebec Sierra. Whiskey 5 India Quebec Sierra.
Oh, by the way, I would like to say something to the club as a whole. Thank you very, very much. When I donated this club a kilowatt station and an antenna and a good receiver, I wanted it gone because I can't hear anymore. Okay? And when you're deaf, ham radio is a waste. So if you ever, see, I have a cochlear implant or I wouldn't be able to communicate at all. This club mobilized, came out to my house, took the kilowatt, took the receivers, the antenna, the towers, everything, and hauled it off and cleaned up the mess that, you know, they'd pull in a complete station, a kilowatt station out is going to be. And I do appreciate this club. Thank you.
Ron.
Was the marriage ceremony by CW or phone?
Was the marriage ceremony by CW or phone? The marriage ceremony, you performed it by phone, and as if I recall correctly, it was one of a small number of phone contacts you ever made.
Oh, the Atlanta marriage was about the most. The marriage was about the most because that required a month or two of coordination, and worked both the guy in Los Angeles, a ham station and operator in Atlanta, and me on the Japanese end of it. We probably had 150 different QSOs over time setting the whole thing up. I don't know, that'd be a guess. It may be 130. I don't know. But I just had never developed an affinity for voice communications. The code is common. It feels good, and I can listen to the code and know exactly what's going on. And sometimes voice is a little bit more difficult, particularly when you have serious hearing problems like I had. Da, A, the capital A, da, is easy to hear with my ears. The word A is more than one sound bit. You think, oh, it's a single. It's not. It's a multitude of sound bits.
Anything else? Thank you very much. Evan, it was great to have you this evening. Thank you.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you, Evan, for being here. I hope if I ever make it to 93, I have what he's got. Definitely. God bless him. All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Evan. Appreciate you being here. God bless you, sir. All right. Need a motion to adjourn. David, second. Joe, all in favor? Any opposed? Anybody want to stay? All right. Have a good night.